Every VW owner knows exactly what's wrong with their car. The DSG lag, the infotainment that freezes at the worst possible moment, the turbo that goes at 60,000 miles like clockwork. They know all of it, and they still go back every single time. This is your life, as every Volkswagen owner. It wasn't much to look at. A Polo, 6 years old, 2 previous owners. One of the rear windows only went down 3/4 of the way, and nobody could explain why. It didn't matter. It was yours. It had 4 wheels and an engine and a VW badge on the bonnet, and on the day you picked it up, that was genuinely everything. The first month was perfect. You drove everywhere, places you didn't need to go, just because you could, just because it was yours. Then the insurance renewal came, then the MOT, then the tire. You learned very quickly that owning a car and affording a car are 2 completely different conversations. At some point, and this happens to every Polo owner, you decided it needed something. A spoiler, some new wheels, maybe a slightly louder exhaust that cost 200 pounds and sounded like a lawnmower with ambitions. You told yourself it was tasteful. It wasn't tasteful, but you were 19 and it was yours and nobody could tell you anything. The Polo wasn't fast. It wasn't comfortable. The heating worked on its own schedule, but it never let you down when it mattered. And somewhere in those 2 or 3 years of ownership, something happened that you didn't notice at the time. You became a Volkswagen person. You didn't choose it. It just happened. It always just happens. But a Polo was never meant to be the destination. Some of you knew that from the day you bought it. The GTI was always the plan. The GTI is not a rational decision. You knew that going in. You did the finance calculation 3 times and it only made sense twice. You went ahead anyway. You'd wanted one since you were 15, since you saw one on a roundabout and something clicked. Some decisions aren't about sense, some decisions are about finally. The GTI driving experience is, with one exception, completely brilliant, sharp, responsive, sounds exactly right, feels exactly right. And then there's the DSG. In stop-start traffic at low speed when you're just trying to get through a junction, it lurches, just slightly, just enough. You know it's doing it. The car knows it's doing it. You've both decided not to talk about it. Everything else is perfect, so you forgive it. You always forgive it. The infotainment system works perfectly, except when it doesn't, which is not always, but enough. Enough that you know the specific sequence of presses that sometimes unfreezes it. Enough that you've explained to 3 passengers that it's normally fine. It froze while you were trying to change the music, so you press it again. Nothing. You press it again. Still nothing. You turn the car off and on again like it's a router. Works perfectly. The clutch and flywheel. If you've owned a GTI with a DSG, you'll soon find out. If you haven't, you will soon. 62,000 miles, not 60, not 70, 62, like it had a calendar. The number the service advisor gave you was said very calmly and matter-of-factly the way you'd tell someone the weather. You sat in the waiting room for 2 hours. You thought about selling it. You didn't sell it. Because it's a GTI, and you don't just sell a GTI. Here's the thing about the GTI that nobody who hasn't owned one can fully understand. The repair bills are real. The DSG is real. The infotainment is real. But on the right road, on a clear evening with the windows down and the exhaust doing exactly what it's supposed to do, there is not a single car at this price point that comes close. Not one. And that's why you forgave it. That's why everyone forgives it. That's why you're already looking at the next one. At some point, however, the GTI starts asking questions you're not ready to answer. Questions like, where does the pushchair go? Questions like, is this really the right car for the school run? You don't answer them straight away, but you start looking at Passats. You told everyone it made sense. The boot space, the motorway comfort, the residuals. You had the whole speech ready. And it did make sense. That was the most unsettling part. You were making sense now. You were the kind of person who made sense. You drove home in the Passat doing exactly the speed limit and you didn't even notice. The boot changed you. You didn't expect the boot to change you, but it did. Pushchair, dog, weekly shop, golf clubs, all of it, at the same time. And then something strange happened. You started telling people about the boot, unprompted, in detail, with measurements. You had become your father. The motorway is yours now. You didn't know this was a thing people felt, but it's a thing. Cruise control set, lane discipline immaculate. You're doing the speed limit +7, the universally agreed upon acceptable amount, and the Passat is completely unbothered. You've started listening to podcasts, long ones, educational ones. You're fine with this. Nobody decides to get an SUV. It just becomes obvious. One morning you look at the Passat and you think, I need to sit higher, and that's it. That's all it takes. Welcome to the Tiguan. You told yourself it was practical, the ground clearance, the boot, the towing capacity, even though you own nothing that needs towing, and then you sat in it. You didn't expect to love the driving position, but you love the driving position. You can see everything. You feel, and this is not a word you'd normally use about a family SUV, you feel commanding. You told your partner it was the most sensible car you'd ever owned. You meant it. You also weren't telling the whole truth. The school run is where the Tiguan makes its case most clearly. You pull up, you're higher than everyone else. The doors close with that specific VW solidity that never gets old. The car next to you is a Dacia Sandero. You don't say anything. You don't need to say anything. The Tiguan says it for you. You used to think SUV drivers had given up. You understand now that they hadn't given up. They just found something different. And on a Sunday afternoon, family in the car, countryside road ahead, the Tiguan doing exactly what it was built to do. You're not missing the GTI, almost, but not quite. Most people don't know the Touareg exists. VW owners do. And once you know it exists, you can't unknow it. It's the one that makes no sense. It's the one you're going to buy anyway. Nobody buys a Touareg because they need one. That's the first thing to understand. There is no practical argument for a Touareg that a Tiguan doesn't already win. The Touareg exists for a different reason. It exists because at some point you stopped asking whether you needed it and started asking why you were waiting. The infotainment in the Touareg does not freeze. You notice this immediately. You've been conditioned to check. The InnoVision cockpit, and yes, that's what they actually call it, is the width of a small television. It responds when you touch it. First time, every time. You sat in the driver's seat in the showroom for 11 minutes before anyone came to speak to you. You weren't ready to stop sitting in it. Here's what nobody tells you about the Touareg. It's fast, not GTI fast, not track day fast. But 2.5 tons of German engineering fast, which is its own specific and deeply satisfying kind of fast. You overtook something on the A-road home from the dealership. You didn't plan to. The Touareg planned it for you. Every Volkswagen owner has had the conversation, the repair bill they didn't see coming, the infotainment that froze at exactly the wrong moment, the DSG that lurched in traffic for 2 years before they admitted it was doing it, and every single one of them bought another one, because that's what Volkswagen does. It breaks your heart just enough to make you forgive it, just enough to make you stay, like an ex you can't quite walk away from. Which rank are you? Drop it in the comments.